Welcome to the Primitive Lifeways channel. In today's video, I'm going to test out a stone chert point and see how well it slices through a few animal hides using the Atlatl and dart system. So stick around, I'll be right back with you. Folks, so I want to welcome you back. Now here's the dart that we'll be using. This is made of willow. So this is the material that many of the prehistoric cultures use for the majority of the time throughout Arizona. And for the tip, this is chert, and you can see this is nice and thin. It's very sharp and it has serrations throughout its entire structure. And I want to test out how well this rips a hole through the leather. I have the leather folded up and I have two pieces, so it's really like three pieces of leather. And I'm sure this thing will be absolutely devastating and cut a wicked hole right through it. As far as size, this is a 6-foot dart. I'm 6'3", so it's just a little bit shorter than I am. But this thing is nice and light, and it carries a tremendous amount of energy with this Atlatl. The Atlatl I'll be using is a Woomera style Atlatl made of mountain mahogany. And it has a really nice weight geared towards this Atlatl. But first, before I test this out, because I only have a couple times to get this right, I don't want to miss, and especially if I hit a rock, this point will break right in half and it'll shatter. I want to practice and I want to warm up, and I'll do that with this ash dart. Now this is a little bit heavier, but it'll give me the opportunity to hit this leather and really get some good practice in before I switch over. So we'll start that right now. This is so wild. You can see even with the field point, it does quite a bit of damage. And man, even with that, it cuts a pretty good size hole. So at this point, I'm pretty confident I can hit this leather, and I'll now switch over to the chert point. This will be the true test. I'm looking forward to this. So when I first saw this, I thought, oh shoot, I missed and I broke the projectile point. But what ended up happening is the foreshaft actually broke out of the main shaft. So I'll have to recarve a new foreshaft, trim the main shaft, and heat up the projectile point and remount it onto a foreshaft, then glue it back in. But man, this thing cut a wicked hole. I'll pry out this foreshaft so you can see. It is in there good. Absolutely devastating. This will definitely kill. The projectile point is in excellent condition. It's still very sharp. None of the serrations broke. And again, I can reuse this. Well, here we are. I went ahead and just shortened up the length of the foreshaft. So this will most likely submerge itself into the target and we should be just fine. So we'll continue on and we'll keep throwing. Well, once again, the foreshaft snapped off into the target. What ends up happening is the dart hits the target, it shears down, and it breaks the foreshaft off. And I don't think that's avoidable, especially with a compound dart. Now, maybe if I mounted the projectile point directly on the main shaft, we'll have more success. But as this thing sits, it's getting quite short. It's probably 4 feet, I would imagine. And I think I'm going to call it quits, because any shorter, like I said, it's going to be harder to throw, especially with this Atlatl. But man, this hole is definitely wicked. A nice hole cut into 2 of the hides. It didn't go through the folded piece. The folded piece runs from the center on down to the bottom. and I can feel that foreshaft inside of the target, so I'll have to pull it out with pliers. Now, even with, if I were hunting, even with the dart breaking off, this will absolutely kill large game up to elk. What happens is the foreshaft lodges into the body and it leaves a hole. So the blood trail is much thicker and you can track the game easier. So I'll go ahead and call this experiment quits. It wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be, but overall, I'm pleased with the results and how well it performed and how well it cut through these hides. Definitely devastating. All right, so you can see I dug out the foreshaft, and this stone point is still in great condition. It's very sharp, none of the ears broke, the serrations are still intact, and I'm pleased with the results either way. Now, after I reviewed the footage and put it in slow motion, exactly what I suspected happened. As the dart hit the object, it came to a sudden halt, and it sheared down and completely snapped off. Now, going back, if I were to mount this in as a removable foreshaft, or like I mentioned before, just mounted the projectile point onto the main shaft, I think we would have much more success. But if I made this as a removable foreshaft, each time I would have to go in and dig that foreshaft out, and that can be quite a pain. But either way, the results on this were very pleasing, and as I mentioned, I'm very confident that this will take large game up to elk. So the reason why we can get away with a glued in foreshaft in an arrow is because the arrow is much lighter and it's smaller in size. And also the bow has a tremendous amount of energy. So the penetration value is much deeper and it doesn't have the weight to shear down like an Atlatl dart does. But that's what this is all about, is learning and growing together. So with that, folks, I do appreciate you joining me for this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the Primitive Lifeways channel on YouTube, and share this video throughout social media. It really helps us to grow and expand, and most important, it helps us to reach a wide, diverse audience. So I'm Jeff with PrimitiveLifeways.com, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.